Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The Expendable Show. I'm your host, The Expendable. So, I hope everybody's staying warm out there. We got what they're calling down here in Atlanta this massive blizzard, but really we got like 3 inches of snow, which was really weird because it's the first time I've ever really seen like snow accumulate since I moved down here almost 6 years ago. It was kind of exciting. Like I got excited. Um, I still drove to work in it and everything. It wasn't that big of a deal. And so that was exciting for me to see some snow that accumulated and stuck. There's still some out there. It's 2 days ago. There's still a little bit of snow on the ground. So that's pretty exciting. I had everybody that works for me call off except for like 3 people. It was kind of a rough day on Friday, but if you like my show, like, subscribe, and ding the bell. Helps my channel grow. It seems like every week I get more and more followers. Maybe I'll have, 1 million of them like Joe Rogan someday. I'm not gonna huff anything on my show like Joe Rogan does. The smelling salts. He gets all his guests to sniff the smelling salts. I don't know why they do that. I've smelled them before playing sports. They don't smell all that great. So also, if you like reading books, my book right here, The Swiss Effect, is available everywhere. Walmart, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. And I will be doing a thing on Tuesday at Story on the Square. It's a bookstore in McDonough, Georgia. So I'll be meeting with with those people, and they're going to put my books on their shelf. So I'm excited about that, and I will try to make sure and take some pictures and post them on my social media so everybody can see that event. It's a really nice bookstore. I've been in there quite a few times. They got like a wine bar in there and everything. You can read books until you get too drunk and you can't read, and I think that's how that's supposed to work. I don't know. But so let's get into some business. So I have, through my dear friend, Jenny Lynn, who is in the comment section, she hooked me up with this news outlet out of India called Republic News. And so they've had me on twice this weekend to give political analysis. So I'm going to throw what that looked like up there. So there's me with the host of the show. And we basically talked about the beef that's going on. Like Mark Zuckerberg came out on the Joe Rogan show and basically said, look, I didn't want to censor, and I didn't want to do all these things to the people on Facebook and Meta and everything else. But the Biden administration was really putting a lot of pressure on me to do that. So I got my chance to talk to the people of India about how that really went down and what I thought the issue is with that. It was really fun. Hopefully they'll keep having me on. I like being on TV, but it's fun. So there's that. And so the rap video that I'm in, it came out as well. That came out today. So if you want to go try to find me in the video, go watch Akbar. The song is called Shot O'Clock. I'm sitting at the bar, pretend like I'm drinking shots, but I don't drink, so I had to pretend. But it was fun. Like I said, we've talked about this on the show. It was a good experience. I got to see how the production of a video like that goes. That was exciting. I'm kind of a nerdy person like that. I want to see how they angle the lighting and how they bring the sound in and all this stuff. It was an experience. I learned a lot. And my friend out there, Iman Hardaway, that produced it, and she's the one who invited me on. That was a lot of fun. She's very, very good at what she does. If you watch the video, it's legit. It's not a slouch kind of thing. She's an up and coming big name in the industry. So, and she's very, very smart. I highly enjoy talking to her all the time. She always educates me on something. And she's a really good cook. You watch her stories, she's always cooking something fantastic. So first thing up, we're going to talk about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is now officially a felon. Yay. So Judge Juan Merchan handed down the 34-count indictment sentence, found Trump guilty of the business fraud, whatever they want to call it. To me, it's just a coding error. That's what it's a coding error that I can't even stress to you. For people who don't know anything about the law, I can understand, which is most liberals, because they don't have to follow laws. So they just say, well, the CNN says this is a felony. He should be put on death row. No, this is a white collar, stupid coding error that they nitpicked and found it because Michael Cohen's a snitch and he tried to save his own ass from doing more prison time because he was stealing from Trump. And he's the one who actually came up with the extortion plan, or the money transaction with Stormy Daniels. And he was actually the one who made the transaction. Donald Trump didn't make the transaction. Michael Cohen did. And while he was making the transaction, he was skimming off the top from Donald Trump. So that was their key witness was Michael Cohen, the guy who is a thief. He committed fraud. He paid a ransom. This guy is nothing. He's nothing. And he's been on TV ever since crying about it. He told MSNBC in an interview that there should have been accountability or the case should have just been dismissed. Like, he's pouting because he didn't get the result that he wanted. He I snitched on Donald Trump and they didn't do nothing. I did all that. He acts like he did something really miraculous. All you did, you're a scumbag and you did some scumbag stuff, period. The end of story. He said, I believe that there's no accountability. There's no deterrence. And if there's no deterrence and no accountability, what's the point to have the case anyway? He was just on there just pouting. It was hilarious. I can't stand Michael Cohen. The guy is the epitome of what's wrong with this country. And let's not forget that Michael Cohen is also a disbarred lawyer. New York pulled his law license. So, every bit of credibility that guy ever had is long gone. So basically with the sentence, it means that Trump is not going to, they gave him an unconditional discharge, which I guess if you're going to hand this down, this was the right way to do it. Merchan did the right thing. Although he should have threw the whole case out. That would have been the right thing. But if you're going to do something, at least he didn't try to force something that would have Trump tied up in courts forever. So what he did was he issued an unconditional discharge, which basically means that Trump's not going to have to face any consequences for this felony. He's just going to get labeled a felon. Period. That's it. So whatever. His team's already said we're appealing. They're going to appeal it to the district court. And chances are Trump has had good luck in the New York district courts. So I believe that this is could end there and get thrown back to the local courts. Because for those of you idiots out there who don't know how the law works, when you appeal something, it goes up to the district court, and the district court will find the error, and they'll tell you, okay, we're going to send it back to the local court to discuss the error, and either you can retry it or just fix the error. So it's going to come back down on Judge Merchan, but he's going to have to follow the recommendation of what the district court says. And if that doesn't work, then it can go right back up to the U.S. Supreme Court, where we know that chances are, seeing how the makeup of the Supreme Court is, Donald Trump's going to have all these felony charges gone. One way or the other, these felony charges are not going to stick. So, boom. All that taxpayer money wasted for nothing. Good job, New York. Now, next, we got Jack Smith, another tyrant of this. Well, he's not even American, so he's from England, which we all know about England. And I insulted the crown. Whatever. God save the Queen. She's not alive no more. Anyway, Jack Smith, he was a special counsel for Trump's, he was representing the Department of Justice for Donald Trump's election interference case down in Florida. that case completely fell apart and was dismantled. Even Judge Eileen Cannon, who's overseeing the case, kept telling Jack Smith, like, you do not have jurisdiction in this court. You are not an American citizen. You do not hold an American bar. He has all these things that disqualify him from even being the special prosecutor. And he kept trying to push all these things. And finally, Judge Cannon threw it all out. Like, look, this is stupid. We're getting out of here. So Jack Smith did resign from that appointment, which he never should have been appointed in the first place. For one, he is a very, very bad prosecutor. They've used him over here in the past. This guy has a very high percentage of he loses appeal cases. So every time people appeal his decisions, usually he loses, which would have happened here too. But he resigned ahead of Trump's inauguration. They kind of knew this was going to happen. It was kind of planned. But he's going back to The Hague to work for the ICC, the International Criminal Court, which they run around and they say the ICC is so important, but the ICC has zero jurisdiction in the United States of America. I need everybody to understand that, because I've seen that a lot on social media in the last 24 hours, where they think Jack Smith's going to go back to the ICC and continue the investigation into Donald Trump because of Canada somehow. They're going to enter through Canada. Get out of here. Canada, for one, Canada's not going to help you. Justin Trudeau is no longer in power. So good luck with that. You're going to get real Canadians running Canada now. For two, the ICC, if they even step foot on this soil, they'll get kicked out of here so fast. We have zero respect for them. The Hague has zero credibility. They spend all their time harboring terrorists and going after Benjamin Netanyahu all the time, who they don't have any jurisdiction over him either. And then they go after Vladimir Putin. It's just, the Hague is just an organization of wimpy nerds that run around and they talk a big game, but they don't arrest nobody because they don't have any jurisdiction anywhere. They're going to get Putin at one time. We're going to get Putin. Okay, we'll go into Moscow and get him, tough guy. And they didn't do it. So Jack Smith's out of the way. Judge Merchan case is out of the way. We've got left this one down here in Georgia, but they're holding off on that because they know that case is already fallen apart. Down here in Georgia, I follow this because obviously I live in Georgia, but in Fulton County, where this court's jurisdiction is at, with District Attorney Fani Willis, we all know, if you follow the news, she's just riddled with scandal. She whittled away the whole Young Thug case that got nothing. Like, they spent millions of dollars trying to try all these cases, and that whole RICO case fell apart. So she's got all these, I'm going to be the best RICO DA ever. Well, you done let one fall apart, and this one's fallen. Trump's case is falling apart too. This isn't gonna stick. Plus, now Trump and Kemp are on the same page now. Like, they're not gonna get anything out of Georgia. So it's still open, but it's not going to go anywhere. I think it's postponed indefinitely. So eventually it's going to drop off the map. But obviously this case with Jack Smith, it got dismissed mainly off of the fact that the Department of Justice has a longstanding policy where they're not going to prosecute sitting U.S. presidents. So now that Donald Trump is president-elect, it defeats the purpose of them continuing this, because now Joe Biden obviously created the immunity clause. So, there's the immunity. They can't touch Trump now. This week also, I'm going to be paying close attention because they're going to be doing cabinet confirmations. It's going to be all week this week. I think they start them on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure Pete Hegseth is on the list first. I think they're doing him first because they know that hello, Mel. But I think they know that that Pete Hegseth is going to go through a lot of scrutiny, so they're going to need some time to dig through Pete Hegseth, which I think at the end of the day they're going to confirm him. I don't really see any issues. Pete Hegseth is the only one that really potentially could be a problem for Trump's cabinet picks, but the rest of them should be pretty much shoo-ins. Pam Bondi, some of the major ones. and even Kash Patel. They don't like Kash Patel, but there's no dirt on this guy. You can't really say no to him. He's worked in the federal courts as a lawyer. This guy's got all the experience in the world. He's capable of running the FBI, and he will do it valiantly. So really, Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel were the two biggest targets. I think Kash Patel is not anything to worry about. He's going to get confirmed. So, and also, like I said, Justin Trudeau announced his resignation as the Canadian Prime Minister. That's one tyrant down. Now, Canada is going to hold open elections. So it'll be interesting to see what candidates pop up. I know a lot of people in America don't pay attention to Canadian politics. I do, because I want to see the Canadian people get their country back. It slowly has gone towards this like darker side of things. And it's like taken the identity of real Canadians away. And so I want to see them kind of get their pride back. You know, Canada's a good country. They got good people up there. And they've been a long time friend of the United States. And we've had tensions, the last, few presidencies because of, the changing and the transitions that's going on. Canada has kind of distanced themselves from the United States a little bit, and as far as the relationship has gone, and they've looked more towards Europe and China. If you read my book, either one of them, I talk about it from the mouth mainly. China and Canada do joint military operations together. A lot of people do not know that, and they do. Justin Trudeau was a big proponent of Xi Jinping, and say that 10 times real fast. Xi Jinping, Xi Jinping. Can't do it. It's a tongue twister. So he had this thing with them, and then of course he's always following the instructions of the crown. Whatever. We don't care about the crown. They should just let Meghan Markle run England. I think that would be way more fun to watch. You can watch all those monarchs cry for the next 50 years while she's queen. Okay, so let's talk about the Los Angeles fire. I think I'm going to say fire. I don't care. California fires. Let's go. So Gavin Newsom, did I say that right? What's his name? Newsom. That's it. Newsom's not right. So Gavin Newsom he's proven to be a huge failure, mainly for the safety of the people of California. I don't know how this guy is still roaming the streets of California after all this. This is a massive failure. But I am hearing people are calling for him to be recalled again. I think that has to happen. They can't let him last time he got recalled, he kind of went in there and smooched his way back in and gained a few votes back. But I think they need to lay the hammer down on him this time. He's done too much. He's pushed it too far. He's caused too much disaster. So they're calling for a recall. I think that's going to happen. I don't know if they'll go all the way through with it, but I believe that he's going to be facing recall. And the good thing about that is they're going to throw a lot of things out there that are truthful that the people of California are going to be upset about. So the fires are in Malibu, Brentwood, Palisades, Hearst, Eaton, Kenneth, and Lydia. Yes, that's right, Jenny Lynn Newsom. He knows. She lived there. She lived in San Francisco. There's lots of Newsom there. They got a poop map. I talk about the poop map all the time. Every time San Francisco gets brought up, I got to bring up the poop map because it's legendary. That's one of the greatest things Nancy Pelosi's ever done is create the poop map. So anyway, this is a massive fire. This is probably one of the greatest natural disasters ever to hit California. And we're talking out of all the earthquakes and everything else. This thing has done a lot of damage. Before we jump into the statistics of where we're at right now, I want to point out that LA Mayor Karen Bass is also a huge failure. So Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass, they're on the same level of failure. So if you're going to recall one, let's recall the other. I'm sure there's a better mayor out there that'll actually give two shits about the people of California, because there's a lot of good people out in California. There's a lot of bad people out in California. But if you have bad politicians running good people in California, it's not going to work out in your favor. So let's get rid of her too. Let's just clean house. California just needs a clean house altogether. So let's go into fire stats. We've got 16 dead, unfortunately. You're not seeing that get talked about a lot of the not hearing from the families or anything of the deceased. That's a horrible way to go. Dying by fire. I wouldn't wish that upon people. It's a suffering, and it's a slow death. So far, last I saw, there's over 2,000 homes completely destroyed. We're looking at over 30,000 acres are still on fire. They have monetized the damage, so we're looking at about $135 billion to $150 billion in damage. So when you look at the money they could have invested in keeping the fire departments funded versus what it's going to cost, because miraculously the insurance companies stopped covering all those houses out there the month before the fires hit, ironically. Now you're going to be stuck with this major bill. Biden said the federal government's going to come help out. We'll see. They're going to hand out $750 checks again, like they do to disrespect everybody that goes through a natural disaster. So as of right now, they're saying, I'm seeing videos everywhere where there's arson involved, but the Los Angeles keeps saying that there's no known cause of the fires. So I'm not real sure. So the official word is that they don't know why they started, but everybody on the internet keeps showing this dude running around starting fires all over the place. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's it's California. There's the state of covering up crime. What should I have expected, I guess? Newsom, he cut off funding to the fire protection by $18 million. So there's a $18 million budget cut to the fire departments over there. That's why we're in the predicament we're in. There's not enough firefighters, and we'll get into that here in a second. Also, Adam Shifty Schiff. Everybody knows Adam Shifty Schiff, Mr. Russia collusion, the biggest liar in Congress. I don't know how this guy sleeps at night. He never tells the truth. Anything that comes out of his mouth, he can almost put your yearly salary on that. It's going to be full of shit. So let's talk about Adam Schiff. He went on an interview and stated that the Palisades reservoirs were full. I don't know what everybody's talking about. The reservoirs were full. But there's so many, even the LA Times was like the reservoirs were empty and they were not even online. That means they weren't even pumping water. So can we not interview Alex Schiff? He's just provides misinformation and confuses everybody, because we all know that everybody on the left buys everything Alex Schiff says like Jesus said it himself. But we've been able to fact check him completely wrong over and over and over again. So I don't understand why they let Alex Schiff continue to talk. They should just get him off. I think he's gagged in Congress still. He's not even allowed to talk in Congress. So let's talk about the current problems they're facing. So the hydrants are running out of waters, despite the full reservoirs, which we now know are not full. The fire departments are highly understaffed. They don't have enough firefighters. They had their funding cut. So you tell me, in one of the largest areas in the United States that has the most forest fires, and we're going to say that cutting firefighting fund, like the funding for that, should never get touched. If anything, they should be adding to it. But you know why they had to cut it? Because they had to pay for the immigrants. The housing's expensive. The food's expensive. They did all these things for the immigrants that they had to pull from all these different departments in California so they could fund it. Go fact check that. So I have a scenario, and I know I thought about it, and then I think Marjorie Taylor Greene came in and telepathically took it out of my brain, because then she tweeted about it today. But I'm going to add more context to it. So Marjorie Taylor Greene put out a statement on Twitter and said, "Hey, can't we just cloud seed? Like, why are we not cloud seeding? We cloud seed everywhere else in the world." Hey, there's Rob. But why did they not cloud seed along the coastline and build the rain up and let the rain help the firefighters put out the fires? So let's talk about that. Because when we look at weather patterns, nearly every front that migrates across the United States starts out in the Pacific Ocean generally. Not all of them. Some of them come from the Arctic, but a lot of them come from like the Pacific coast. They build up out in the ocean, then they hit landfall, and then they just gain steam. So this isn't anything out of the ordinary for a weather pattern. So why couldn't they cloud seed a front or just keep cloud seeding up there until you build one and let it go across? All they need is one cloud. And that's true. I read this whole thing, this whole study, but we'll get into that here in a second. So cloud seeding, they started doing it in 1940. Yeah, well, we already know where they went, Rob. They went to the migrants. They had to fund all their food and their shelter and everything else. That's where all that money went. But the cloud seeding started in 1940s. Okay. So they basically they can do it three different ways. They can either do what they called cold cloud seeding, and basically it's silver iodine or potassium iodine into cold clouds to stimulate ice and snow. So that's how they can create snow. And they have warm cloud seeding, which is hydroscopic materials like salt that they can sprinkle them up there into that moisture. It all mixes together and they can create water like warm rain. And then there's the dynamic cloud seeding, which is aircraft generated turbulence or shock waves to enhance precipitation efficiency. I'm not going to say the word of what that is, but I think you all can figure it out. If you look up in the sky and see airplanes, you'll figure it out. So they have the technology. They've had it since 1940. So imagine the 85 years later where we're at today. You think they just scrapped that program and said, well, we figured it out. No, they didn't do that. They tried to advance it and make it better and more efficient. So it's evolved and has gotten better over the years. But if you go back into the research of it, they cut all the research out from like 1968 till present. You don't find any research data of any organization talking about cloud seeding. It's all from reports from news media outlets. It would have came from the National Oceanic blah blah blah. Those people that looked into the storms that went through North Carolina. But that organization would have been the ones to create the data. And the fog is part of that too, Rob. Yep. Thanks for bringing that up. I believe that the fog had something that's the same concept. Just probably a little bit different chemical makeup, I would say. So they could have cloud seeded very easily and helped put out these fires, but they didn't. Why? Because they need these properties to burn. I believe, speculation, theoretically, that they need the majority of these properties cleared out. Because, like I said in my book, that everybody, my dad told me that people on Truth Social are finally talking about the content of my book. Finally, he said, this lady, almost like she read your book, she was like pretty much verbatim telling everybody what was happening from the book. I said, well, it might be, I don't know. But what we're seeing is California is going to be the first guinea pig of the 15-minute cities. They need to clear out all these areas so they can put their grids in and get the 15-minute cities started, the smart cities, which is going to be a huge money maker for none other than Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI. He's part of this. He's already made a deal with the San Francisco mayor, David Lurie. They're going to get these and implement them. And they've even announced it that's what they're going to do. So it's no secret anymore in California. They just need to create the space to do it. They want to get all these longtime residents out of here that aren't going to get on board, and they're not going to get rid of their properties. So they're just going to catch it on fire. You know, everything along the coastline of Los Angeles is pretty much on fire. So that's where we're at. And they're going to force this agenda. That's why when Klaus Schwab said, hey, at the UN summit in September, they were going to push his end date to 2035. But he came back at the UN summit in New York City in September and said, no, we're not going to push it back. We're just going to force it to happen. And they are. This is them forcing it to happen. Yep. Rob, you're right. I'm reading. Danny jumped in. I'm reading his. I believe that they took out the hydrants on purpose. I think that was all part. Like, what area doesn't have their reservoirs running? That's insane. I've never heard of that. And I come from an area where we have reservoirs everywhere. It's insane. It's just insane. The cities can't run without their reservoirs being turned on. It's to me, it's deliberate. If that's not deliberate, then we need to find out who turned it off, and they need to be held accountable. But we all know that California is the state of nobody gets held accountable. So I just hope that when Trump comes in, he's already been talking about it, that the investigation is going to happen. Hopefully he can figure out and trace it back to Gavin Newsom, and we can put him in shackles. Yeah, like, right. Yeah, you're right, Rob. Like, it's just weird how that timeline all worked out. Either no water, cancel the insurance, so the insurance companies aren't going to have to pay to rebuild these multi-million dollar homes out there. It's just kind of, they wonder why we all turn into conspiracy theorists, because they make it too obvious. Like, they put all the pieces out there for us to add them together. It just doesn't make any sense. And they live on an ocean, just like my dad said. How do you have unlimited gallons of water off your coast, and you can't have a system that converts and pulls the salt out? Like, what do they call it? Diffusion or delusion or something like that. They've got these things. They already make them, like these places where they can convert the water to good water. I should have looked it up and did a whole study on that, but I didn't. But I do know that they do have them. Other countries use them all the time. And that's crossed my mind. They can't, that's what they're called, desalinators. That's right. Thanks, Rob, for that. Canada uses them. Good. See, Canada does something better. How does Canada do that and we don't do it? That is anti-America, Danny. People got to be held accountable. We got to get this done. And Rob, I do think they may be trying to hide some of Diddy's crimes. We got a little ditty about Gavin Newsom hiding crime. And David Lurie in San Francisco likes to hide crimes too. But that's okay. They already don't like me, so that's fine. So Trump's been on there going, hey, Gavin, you going to do anything? Like, what? How are all these things not happening? Trump went over to California in 2018 when they had the last massive fire over there and said, hey, you guys need to get all this brush cleaned up. That's what's causing these fires. You have this dry brush all over the place. And I think it was over 100,000 acres of it, or more than that. It might be over 1 million. But Trump told him, like, hey, you guys do these controlled burns and get all this brush cleaned up. That'll stop the majority of your fires. That's where all the dryness is at. The trees they're all nourished. It's going to be, you can still catch a tree on fire like that, but it's going to be harder. It's easy. All you got to do is basically get a spark on that brush and it's going to go. And that's what's happening. It happens like that every time out in California. It's so dry out there, anything can make it go up. One other thing, I'm going to bring up two more things with this whole thing. So Gavin Newsom also diverted emergency services to his campaign page. So it's like, hey, if you need more information about this, go to this page. And it was his campaign page. So why would he do that? Oh, because he's trying to like trick people into like, oh, well, while I'm here, I might as well give Gavin Newsom some money. That's slimy. That is super slimy. And he's going to criticize Trump on trying to make this a political thing. This all Gavin Newsom does is try to manipulate people to give him money. That he's such a scammer. I don't trust him. He's like a used car salesman that calls you every 20 minutes. And eventually you gotta cuss him out. Like, look, bro, you call me one more time. So I want to bring up something for those of you who might think, well, you can't cloud seed like that. In 2024, Dubai cloud seeded massively because they were in a drought. So what happened? The whole city flooded. Hey, G bro, what's up, man? But they cloud seeded Dubai and it flooded the place. Guess what they didn't need for a while? Water, because they had plenty of it. It rained for like a week. And it looked like something you'd see like in the book of Revelations. It just poured down rain because they didn't cloud seed it right. They overdid it. And so they got flooded. And if Dubai can do it that fast, that effectively, why can't California do it? Because they don't want it done. This is all everything we run into anymore is a giant psyop. And we're going to have to, Trump's got to bring some kind of normalcy back. We can't sit here and get stuck in psyops all the time. It would by these like crazy leftist, politicians and these crazy United Nations communists that are trying to infiltrate us all the time. Facts. It was all planned, 100%. So that's kind of where we're at with this whole California thing. Supposedly they've been arresting people, but I'm not seeing any like profiles of who's being arrested. I heard there was somebody from the UN, somebody that had a UN company credit card got arrested. I think Charlie Kirk reported that, but I'm not seeing it anywhere else. Naturally, the news isn't going to report. If that's the case, the news is never going to tell us about it because they just don't do that. The preparations, you would think, it's just like when you compare Florida to California. Remember when Gavin Newsom and DeSantis were having their who runs their state better competition? This is a clear indication who runs their state better. You have hurricanes hit Tampa, some massive hurricanes, massive wind, massive damage. And Ron DeSantis had a beautiful plan put together. He knew exactly what he would need, and he pulled them from every state he could ahead of time. I'm not saying that you can predict fires, but as many fires as California's had, especially since Gavin Newsom's been governor, you should have some kind of a game plan on how to solve this problem or how to contain it faster. It's not happening. And so I do believe that Newsom is responsible for this, because a good governor would have said, okay, one of our biggest problems is when things dry up, everything catches on fire. How do we stop this? Do I need to fly airplanes over every once in a while and just drop moisture, just drop water over every couple days just to put some water in the ground? How do I do this? I would have come up with something. You've got the tech industry. Silicon Valley's out there. You got some of the smartest people in the world in California. You're trying to tell me that not one of those brainiacs could come up with a great idea on how to stop forest fires and how to stop people's houses from catching on fire all the time out there? I'm not buying it at all. Not buying it. I don't know why they don't just make me governor of California. I'll fix that whole country or that whole state in about 10 minutes with lots of arrest. Last thing I want to talk about today, as most of you know, I'm a huge college football fan. I'm a huge football fan in general. Ohio State is going to play my Buckeyes. Ohio State. We're going to play the Pope's team, Notre Dame. I used to kind of like Notre Dame, but I don't like them no more since the Pope turned into a woke Pope. So I don't root for Notre Dame anymore because they're woke Dame. So Ohio State's my team. That they're going to win it all. I already know. I would bet on it, but I'm not very good at betting. I usually lose them, so I avoid them. And betting on sports is something that people get addicted to, so I'm not doing it. But that's pretty much our show for the day. I appreciate everybody. Thanks for all the good contributions in the chats. That's my favorite part of the show is seeing what you guys' opinions are. I highly appreciate it. You guys bring stuff that I miss sometimes, and I'm like, oh yeah, nice. I like that. So I want everybody to be safe out there. Pay attention to everything. We're getting closer to the inauguration. The battle's not over. Just stay as safe as you can. All right. I'm out. Peace.